You are now watching the HeSaySheSay Sports Show. I'm your host, King Ralph, here with the homie Kai.
Hey.
I'm at my humble abode, chilling on this glorious 420 day. A beautiful Tuesday. How's your day going?
My day is going wonderful, Ralph.
Yeah.
My day is going wonderful. I'm excited. We are amongst the NFL draft is upon us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of talk about my team, and we're going to be talking about some people that you like as well. So, yeah, but other than that, I'm in good, man.
Yeah.
I'm ready for a great show.
And I'm feeling it. I'm feeling good. Life's great. This episode has been brought to you by Fitboxer. We're at the crib, but still got to shout out my homies. So
back to the crib.
Hey, shout out Fitboxer. We're going to be on Channel 8 News in about 2 weeks. So look out for that. But let's jump straight into it. I know you brought up football, so we're going to go straight into some football.
Football America.
Football. But to start off, we'll get into the draft next. But Deion Sanders has come out and said Ed Reed, as well as Ray Lewis, would like to coach in the HBCU ranks.
Yes.
We've already seen Deion having a decent season. Started off great, went a little bit of a little losing streak, and then doing pretty well right now with Eddie George taking over at Tennessee. Was it Tennessee State?
I think it was actually Tennessee State. I believe.
Tennessee State.
Yeah. You can fact check that.
But do you see this becoming a trend?
Actually, I do, because the reason why I believe
is it a good thing?
Okay, yeah, sure. The reason why I feel like it's become, or should I say, why I believe it will become a trend, excuse me, if it's not already, is due to the fact that you had an already prominent sports figure in one Deion Sanders primetime himself become a head coach, not an assistant, not a defensive coordinator, but a head coach, a leader of men, right? For a football team, I believe it's Jackson State. That's the name of the
yes,
name of the school.
Yeah.
Right, and I follow Deion Sanders on Instagram. Great follow. You guys should definitely follow him. Very inspirational. So I feel like when you have a prominent black figure who's taking over and is a leader of men, and I'm looking at the candidates, the Eddie Georges of the world, the Ray Lewises of the world, right, who's come in and have given speeches, have spoken to prominent college programs like the University of Miami, where he actually went to school at, you know what I'm saying? And you're looking at an Ed Reed, someone who already is down in Miami, or who had say-so in Miami and how they conducted the team this past season, right? So I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at the level of talent that they could bring to the HBCUs and the personalities that these individuals are. And I think that it would actually be great. So I actually do believe it's going to be a recurring trend, more for the fact that I think Deion Sanders is breaking the mold, and I think also his level of success, because we have to talk about success, right?
Right.
He's not going to be awarded and afforded the same, I guess you could say, quote unquote pathway, that maybe in Alabama or maybe a Georgia, is awarded to. But I think that just his cachet that he has, his name alone, his ability, and he's coached at other levels before. I think that's going to draw players in, especially defensively as well. You know what I'm saying? So you got to start somewhere, and I believe he's coaching his son as well. So that's going to be big. So I'm actually excited to see what these individuals do moving forward, and I'm also pulling for them because I think that would be really good for the HBCUs. So that's where my stance is on that. How about you, man?
Me personally, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, though.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Because this is, I do think it will become a trend for this reason. You just got to think about it. When you're a high school student, college student, and you come into a league or you go into college and you got people that you look up to that play your position. If you're going into it with thinking or having that person being your coach, it's gonna take a little bit of the sting off, or you'll pay more attention to them versus if they're just a position coach or a coordinator versus being the head coach.
Right.
Where like if you got, let's just say you go into the league and you got like I'm trying to think of someone who's not as high, like a Matt Patricia. Let's just say Matt Patricia's the head coach.
Pencil in the ear.
Right. But then Ray Lewis is your linebacker coach. When it comes down to game planning and everything, and your technique and the way that you're going to work on during the week leading up to Sunday, who are you going to pay more attention to?
Ray Lewis.
Matt Patricia or Ray Lewis? And it's obvious. It's obvious. The obvious answer, Ed Reed. If I'm a running back, I'm going to pay way more attention to Eddie George versus someone else. Or if I'm a corner, someone like a Deion Sanders. So I do think it's a good thing as far as that, where they'll get to start in the college ranks. But then I do think the one thing I don't like about it is that I just have this feeling that if the only reason Deion Sanders is at Jackson State is because he couldn't get the Florida State job, or they wouldn't give him that position. So
they wouldn't necessarily get.
So like for him to go, he's gonna let's just say he spends a couple years, has at least a full freshman to senior graduating class. They by year 4, 3 or 4, they have this great record. Does he move on, or should you stay at the HBCU ranks? And that's where like I'm kind of torn on whether it's good or bad. But I do continue to see this being a trend because we've been having this conversation as far as black head coaches in the league for a long period of time.
Yeah.
To where now I do think that them getting this opportunity, they'll get more opportunities being able to coach at the HBCU ranks.
Okay.
Rather and getting that head coaching job right away, where like how often do you see special teams or position coach straight to head coach? And so it's like those, and I think with them going into the league, even if someone as great of a mind as an Ed Reed or Ray Lewis, even Peyton Manning said that those two were just as much of a headache that he caused for people changing things at the line. They were him on defense.
Right.
Especially Ed Reed.
Yeah, Ed Reed. I think Tom Brady always had they showed there was a famous picture that used to go viral on, on social media years ago. And it said, find Ed Reed on every play or whatever on his wristband.
Right.
So, yeah.
And and I do think with that, like I do think it's a double-edged sword. I do think it's some good, some bad. Great. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I would like to see them create dynasties and see if maybe with the cachet that they can create, if they'll be able to take an HBCU and take them to a level of where they can be competitive with an Alabama or even a Tennessee State being competitive with Tennessee.
Okay. No, I can say that's a great perspective. Well thought out perspective on that. And I feel you in the sense that when you're going to these HBCUs, right? If you're hiring one of these coaches, I would like to know what is their end goal, right? Every purpose that you have in life, like what is your purpose? Every pathway, what is your purpose, right? And so if your end goal is simply to use the HBCU as a stepping stone to go somewhere else, then it's kind of like,
right?
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not necessarily saying that you can't go somewhere else, right? But to your point, in a way, some people, fans, whatever, players, could kind of see that as a disservice for like, oh, you're not really truly invested in us if you go there for a year or just 2 years, and then I'm just going straight to USC.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because now that name leaves with it. You know what I'm saying? Now everyone's going to be, oh, that's Deion Sanders at Florida State. Not Deion Sanders that came from Jackson State. No, Deion Sanders from Florida State. He's there, and they're going to list off his resume, his list of accolades, all those things, right, are going to become privy to that situation. So. Right. We are next little
and a little technical difficulties, but we're back.
All right. But yeah, picking up where I left off, I was just pretty much saying that you're looking at, okay, now it'll be a prominent figure name, a prominent sports name, it'll be Deion, or Ray Lewis, or Eddie George, or whoever it may be. Now they're tied to a whole other college. When the whole purpose of when we go to these HBCUs is to build up these programs. You know what I'm saying? Build them up from, obviously, I'm not saying players are always, but obviously you're going to mentor the players, but build the athletic program up into a powerhouse, right? Because that's the key with athletics. It's about a powerhouse. University of Maryland, powerhouse. Michigan, a powerhouse for their basketball situation. When you look at Alabama football, powerhouse. UNC basketball, powerhouse. So it's building these up into powerhouses and wanting to gravitate the top tier talent to be like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to go to, Florida, Miami. Let me go to these HBCUs and things of that nature. So I actually think what you said about it kind of being used just kind of as a footstool in a way, just to get to another pathway. That could be something where it's like, And then to your last point, where you mentioned the, I guess the elephant in the room, I guess, if you're a head coach or another coach, right? The name, the clout. Okay, how much clout, how much pull does said individual have? And I can speak from a fan experience, the Baltimore Ravens, Ed Reed and John Harbaugh. You know what I'm saying? Like Ed Reed wanted to coach. He's like, I don't want to be a defensive backs coach. I want to be a real coach or some type of coordinator, whatever. And so that's one of the issues he's had. The Ravens weren't going to offer him that, and everywhere else he's gone, that's in the NFL realm. He couldn't have that situation. So these are players that played in the elite level, but they're legendary players, right? Some of the greatest of all time, Hall of Famers. So I think Shannon Sharp had once said it best: the greater the player, the bigger the ego. And the ego is not so bad, but it's how willingly are you willing to accept maybe even a lesser role or assistant coach job. And then the players come in and like, well, we know your resume. We don't know the coach's resume. So I think I'm going to listen to you. So I think those are all, fair points that you made. And we'll see how it turns out. Definitely, we'll see how it turns out. But I'm definitely pulling for those individuals to have success in any avenue of life where they choose to go. So
yeah, let us know what you guys think. Whether or not you think these former superstars should go into head coaching, or if they should even focus on getting these head coaching jobs in the HBCUs. But with the next topic, we're gonna get into this NFL draft, man. We're like a week and a half away. And just want to break down like there's the Kyle Pitts of the world. There's a lot of discussion as far as who's gonna go 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4. Someone trading up for the 4th pick. But who are some of your favorites? We've talked about favorite defense, offense. Now, at overall picture, who are your top 5 favorite NFL prospects?
Okay, my top 5 favorite NFL prospects. Number 1 is going Sapp. This ain't Alzheimer's, right? But no. All right, no. Well, for this draft, right? And so when I say, I just want to mention real quick, when we talk about top 5, these how I'm going to put my top 5. I'm not saying that this person is necessarily going to be is necessarily the best player in the draft. Is that fair?
Right.
But he could possibly be one of the best players or whatever. So I'm just kind of listening this way. But I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts. There's been a lot of talk about Kyle Pitts, but he's going to be my first person, right? And the reason why I'm going to mention Kyle Pitts is because he can play 2 positions, right?
Right.
Now, do I believe Jamar Chase is the best receiver in the draft or best graded receiver in the draft based off what he was able to do in college and his ability? Yes. But Kyle Pitts at tight end can play the tight end position and he can play the wide receiver position. So you are now a dual threat. If I need you, you have the athleticism and the skill set and the catching prowess to play receiver on the outside and beat up on smaller cornerbacks. But then you also can be in the slot and linebackers can't guard you, right? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So and the offense is the most important part because the offense is the one that scores the most points. So I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts as my number 1, right? So I like my offensive players. Okay. Then my second top player in the NFL draft, I'm going to wind up going with, right? Tevin Jenkins, tackle, right? I believe it's Oklahoma State. I'm looking at the ability to be able to play left tackle, the ability to play right tackle. I'm looking at versatility. Once again, versatility is key here, and I'm looking at line help. I've always believed that the two most important positions in the draft or in football is the quarterback position and the offensive tackle position, right? And so the offensive tackle position is going to protect what? Your franchise. Who is your franchise? Your franchise is your quarterback, whether it's a Trevor Lawrence, whether it's a Mac Jones, whether it's a Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or whoever it may be, right? So I believe in the left tackle and the right tackle. So I'm looking at that. Now you're probably thinking about, what about the quarterback position? I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I don't really love any of these quarterbacks. I do understand what Trevor Lawrence, is being touted as, but I still don't trust some of his comments. I know he came out and tried to reiterate and soften them up. But when the quote is out there and you say what you said, you felt how you really felt.
You know what I'm saying? Yes.
Exactly.
You got to stand on what you said.
Stand on what you said, Trevor Lawrence. Stand on what you said, Trevor Lawrence. Have him ranked number one, but he's also going to be going to a situation where his head coach could be going, and different things, line help and all that kind of stuff. And, the mentality, you know what I'm saying? He could be a bust. He could be a bust. Not all the number ones like that, number one quarterbacks that get drafted. Most number one quarterbacks that get drafted, actually, they either wind up retiring or they wind up being a bust. Marcus Russell.
Right.
I think, was Matt Leinart number one? I'm not sure. I think Matt Leinart was number one. Or was that Mario Williams? I forgot. But
what did it say draft?
I'm not sure. Or mine go first. But yeah, most
didn't go. He didn't go first. He was like 6 or 7.
Okay. But most number one quarterbacks, unless they're Eli Manning, you're going to win 2 Super Bowls. Hey, you know what I'm saying? So my third one, I have to go with Rashad Bateman. I'm going to beat the dead horse again. Ravens. You need to draft Rashad Bateman. If you do not draft Rashad Bateman, this Ravens hat will be turning into a Raiders cap. Some Bateman on this stuff. No, Rashad Bateman, man. If you follow me on any form of social media, I will post about Rashad Bateman. I will give you a full analysis on Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman, right? He is 6 feet tall. He was listed at 6'2" for the combine. 6 feet tall, about $195, right? Runs a 4.3940, so 4.40, but he plays a little bit faster than that. He has a full extensive route tree. He has great releases off the line of scrimmage, right? He has Keenan Allen-esque route running ability. He catches the ball like DeAndre Hopkins. Period. Look at his catch versus, I want to say it was North Dakota State. I could be wrong. But it was one of those schools, Appalachian State. One-handed catch. Fluid in and out of his breaks, right? He can run every route. He will demand a number one corner's attention. He will demand a double team. He is exactly who Lamar Jackson needs at wide receiver. I know there's been a lot of talk about Terrace Marshall Jr. The potential is great. We don't have time for potential. We need someone who's going to be a difference maker. And I believe at the next level, right, outside of Jamar Chase, he's going to be that difference maker on the next level. All right. So that's my third one. Then my fourth one, I'm going to go into pass rushers, right? The ones that get to the quarterback. We saw this past Super Bowl, okay, the Devin White's the world, the Shaquille Barrett's the world, the Jason Pierre-Paul's the world, and that impact they had in getting to Patrick Money Mahomes, we like to call him, right? Patrick Money Mahomes. Raiders fans might call him something else. But it's probably some 4-letter words, but we're gonna keep it PG-13 here. I'm gonna go with Jalen Phillips. The reason why I like Jalen Phillips is this dude plays fast.
Right.
Fast. He plays aggressive. He's gonna make a difference. He's a sure tackler, and he's coming for the kill. He transferred from UCLA, and he even quit football at one point due to concussions, but he wound up coming back, right? And he wound up playing at University of Miami, where Greg Rousseau was on the other side. Greg Rousseau is touted as a top-end pass rusher, but Jalen Phillips pretty much caught the apple of everyone's eye.
Right.
And I like Jalen Phillips. I think he can fit in anyone's scheme who needs a pass rusher. So Jalen Phillips is my number 4, and then my number 5. The last one is always a tough one, man. The last one is always a tough one. So I'm going to have to go with, and I'm going to go off the top of my head based off of what I know. That 5th one, I'm going to Trevor Morgan. Trevor Morris. TCU, strong safety out of TCU. The Raiders could possibly draft him.
That's actually who's gonna be on my list.
Yeah, the Raiders. I mean, excuse me, the Ravens could look at him, but I don't think they're going to draft him. Any team that needs back end help, Trevor Morris. He's a playmaker. Some people hit hard, right? Some people do man coverage, zone coverage. This dude is a playmaker. He's a great job at reading the defense and reacting, and he's your playmaker. If you need an Ed Reed-esque, if you need an Earl Thomas, if you need someone to be a playmaker in the back end, I'm going to go with, I believe it's Trevor, not Trevor. Trayvon, excuse me. Trayvon Morris out of TCU. So those are my five, and I'm going to pass it on to my homie Ralph.
Yo, so I'm going to start off mine with Michael Parsons out of linebacker U,
I like
Penn State. Just can pretty much play any position on the linebacker position, inside, outside, strong side, weak side. Even as has some decent pass rushing skills, but bread is buttered at the middle linebacker position. 6'3", 245. Don't have his 40 time offhand, but show great athleticism, being able to play doesn't really have a weakness, whether or not it's going back to pass coverage versus attacking the run.
Okay.
So with that, that's my number one. My favorite defensive player I put before Patrick Surtain, the second, junior. What we want to refer to him as number two.
I see you, man.
Rangy, long, tall, corner at 6'2", lockdown defender, can play man, can play zone. I see him being someone in the league that I would project him to be someone that his side is going to be shut down. He's a lockdown defender. I'm not sure how high I'm going to have him on this list, so I'm going to wait as far as this one. Because his pops is someone we talked about last week. But yeah, I'm not sure how high on this list. I'm probably put him in at the 5.
Did you get a chance to see his pro day?
Yeah.
Yo, that dude, like, he's so smooth with it, man.
Yeah. Because his pops was a whole problem. And so with that, with 3, I'm actually gonna surprise. I'm gonna surprise a little bit. Because I see some Brett Favre in him. Zach Wilson is actually my one of my. I just love his. He just be slanging that.
This is news to me. This is news to me.
And so, like, but
I see Russell Wilson in him, but okay.
I see Brett in him just from the arm talent, the willingness to be able to throw the ball inside, to make those throws. I'm very impressed with him. The one thing that I have is the problem I have with him is that loss to Coastal Carolina. But
you're gonna hold on
to add some context for people that don't know,
every game he loses,
that game was canceled. And they picked up on short notice. Like, I want to say it was like Wednesday or Thursday. They came to the decision that they were going to play Coastal Carolina on Saturday. And that's the only game. I want to say that's the only game they lost this year. So if you put that into context, he really only had 2 days to prepare for this new team. And then if you go and look at his numbers, it wasn't nothing crazy. I think he completed about 65% of his passes, 63 on the low end. Had 1 interception, 1 touchdown, about 250 passing yards. So not a bad day, not a good day.
It's kind of mediocre average,
right? But that's something that you would expect coming off of 2 days to prepare for this team.
And that was your 4th, right?
That was my 3rd.
Oh, okay. Because you
Trayvon Moehrig is my 4th for every reason that you just said, and I would love for the Raiders to not take an offensive lineman and go safety.
I would actually like to, for the sake of your team, I would like that, and I think that would be great for Vegas.
Right. And the young defensive backs that we have.
Right. But Cleveland Farrell can't be the Secretary of Defense.
Right, and I know that
I like it.
We just brought back Carl Joseph. I'm kind of curious.
When you brought him back,
Yeah,
I thought you sent him to the shallow realm, bro.
Yeah, he came back. I can see that
2013 or whatever he got drafted.
Yeah, he came back. We just that was one of our free agent signings.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that, man.
So I'm kind of curious what happens with that.
I can see how old he is.
So it just depends on how much value they see in Carl Joseph, whether or not he would be a starter or just a rotational person. Because you can. The one thing though is him and Abrams. If they don't play the same position, they have the same playing style. So I don't know how that would work to have both of them. I would like to have, if one person is going to be my hard hitter, I would rather have someone who is a playmaker that's going to turn over the ball and just and watch everything in the backfield. And so with that, I will go with Asante Samuel Jr. Nice, young, athletic, smooth, ball hawk like his pops. Little on the smaller end,
but has a heart of a lion.
But like his dad, had heart. Went up against big, strong receivers. Like he's the third corner in a lot of people's list of corners. Regardless of if you have Caleb Farley or if you have Patrick Surtain as your number one. Most people have him right around the lines with J.C. Horn as the third, maybe even the fourth corner. And that'll make up my list. I'm kind of curious. Let us know what you guys think as far as the NFL draft. Who are some of your favorite prospects? Who would you like your team to draft? And who do you think are the best quarterbacks in the NFL draft? With that, we're going to slide over to some basketball.
We're playing basket.
To the hoop. Not playing.
Welcome to the
right. And so the KD gets hurt.
Yeah.
After playing 4 minutes against the Heat.
Why little niggas,
you know what? I've been reading my thigh a good amount of times, but I did not know that the scientific term for what I was feeling was a thigh contusion.
Yeah. So you can get contusions with, I don't want to go too deep, but you get contusions with a lot of different things. I actually got a scalp contusion when I got hit by a towel bin.
Really?
Yeah. When I was working at Mandalay Bay, and I want to have a concussion with me too. I got a scalp contusion. So yeah. So you can get contusions, thigh bruises, thigh contusions, all those different things. But I'll let you kind of go with that.
And LaMarcus Aldridge, shout out to him on a long, lengthy, high quality career. Someone I wish that the Bulls would not have drafted and traded for Tyrese Thomas.
Man.
So we're not even going to talk about that. Shout out to LaMarcus Aldridge, signed with the Nets. A lot of criticism, but he has retired due to health reasons. Had an irregular heartbeat for the game against the Lakers. I did want to make a joke, but I'm going to leave that alone. Because Drummond was on his head that game. Drummond put him in retirement. He was like, man, I can't. I don't got time for this. But do you still have the Nets as a surefire finals team?
I'm glad that you worded the question, because that means I don't have to hedge.
Right.
All right. So anyone who knows me, when I speak true. Well, but I speak how I feel. That's what I mean. I say truth, not facts. You know what I'm saying? Because facts and truth are different. But anyway, so first and foremost, over at the House of Hoops, like I always like to say when I'm hitting you with that house terminology, hoops terminology. Here's how we're feeling, man, and how I personally feel. The Nets are not a surefire bet. And I'm going to word this correctly. Listen to me, what I'm saying correctly, or closely. Excuse me. Some of my words I usually don't do this. But the Brooklyn Nets, on paper, from a talent perspective, right? Nobody in the East is going to beat them if healthy. This includes James Harden, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. They need that trio, right, to be in unison and to be in sync so they can reach their ultimate goal, which is an NBA championship. But I have been on record in saying that the Brooklyn Nets, the only thing that will beat the Brooklyn Nets would be internal dysfunction, which I did not see them having, and I did not believe that they would have, because I felt like their the way they came together was premeditated murder, quote unquote. It was premeditated. With James Harden, the way he left Houston, KD and Kyrie were already close friends. The GM had played in it. There was no conspiracy. I'm pretty sure that this was already formed together. So that's why you saw no problems within the locker room and on-court chemistry. But I said that the injuries, Kyrie Irving, every year he gets hurt. KD's coming off an Achilles injury, right? And he's had thighs, hamstrings, all those different things. And now James Harden, I wasn't expecting, right? Because James Harden relatively, for the most part, stays relatively healthy, you would say.
Yeah.
He got hurt, but see, KD is is considered like the greatest scorer of all time, arguably. But James Harden, right, is the head of the snake, right? He is the conductor of Mike D'Antoni and Steve Nash's offense. So if you lose James Harden, that's really the issue. Right. Because KD and Kyrie were losing games early, but it's more so not due to lack of talent. It's the fact that Kyrie now, right, he's forced into that point guard role. So KD is injured. Don't get me wrong. That's big, but it's the fact that now him coupled with James Harden is hurt. So I don't believe that they're a surefire bet to win the NBA Finals. I think they can reach it, but I still think it's healthy because I look at Joel Embiid and he's locked in.
Yes, 100%.
He's destroying. And the way that you beat the Brooklyn Nets is you beat them with interior defense. And then finally, I think a team that could give them some problems if they do their due diligence is the Milwaukee Bucks for a series to make it interesting. If they can move to that next level, is because you could put a Drew Holiday, who's one of the best on-ball defenders, I think we agree, in the NBA, right? You put a Drew Holiday on a Kyrie Irving, and you saw what Bam did, but Bam's long and athletic. Right. You put a Chris Middleton on a James Harden, who's not going to guard KD, you know what I'm saying? Right. And you put a Giannis Antetokounmpo on KD because he has the size, the length, the athleticism to bother him. But I don't believe the Milwaukee Bucks can produce enough firepower. So I'm still going to pick the Nets. I'm still going to ride with the ship, right, that they're going to make the NBA Finals because unlike the Clippers really had more internal. I think it was the fact it was a melting pot of internal issues and lack thereof of health. With this, it's the fact that you have health. But that's the only thing that's the real. Right. But I think if they could get at least two of those guys back, I'm going to say actually James Harden. Right.
As long as it's James and any of
the other ones. Right. Preferably KD.
Preferably KD. James and KD, I think they can still get the
because KD can play some defense. So that was going to be my last point. But the reason why I say James is because if James is gone and it's KD and KD even comes back, Kyrie has to play that point guard role. So what is kind of your take on that, man? Like,
I do think I still have them at least getting to the finals.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's assuming everyone comes back healthy.
That's fair.
Like we just discussed 2 seconds ago, if they have James and KD, I even think James and Kyrie could go and do work. My only issue with that at that point is KD is a good help defender. So as far as rim protection, it's having him. It's a bigger edge on the defensive end. Mm-hmm. Where I think of Brett Brown. What is it? Is it TLC?
Yeah.
Because I know it's
you think it's
Luamba or something like that.
You think it's THC for the ladies?
His name is TL, and I can't think of the last part.
Yeah.
It's Luamba or something, or Luanda or something like that.
They have Claxton too.
But he's good. He's a quality. I was talking about perimeter defense. He's a quality perimeter defender. James looks locked in on the defensive end. Even Kyrie, in those big games, looks locked in on the defensive end. I know Schroeder had a hot game and it gave him some work, but in the playoffs, I don't expect that Schroeder. Plus, when LeBron is there, I don't expect that Schroeder. Mm-hmm. So, with that, I do have them at least winning the finals.
Okay. Oh, wait, winning?
Yeah. It barring them healthy.
Okay.
Everybody's healthy.
Okay.
Yes. Now with them, it's health because Blake has injury issues. Kyrie, KD as of over the last 3 years. James has been pretty healthy. I think his is more of a you've been logging a lot of minutes.
Okay.
Now is he hurt? Yes. Did he get hurt? Yes. But do I think that for how long he's been out? I don't think he's that hurt. And so with that, as long as they got James and at least one of the other guys, I can see them at least getting to the conference finals.
Yeah.
Just with how good that team is around them, James is the piece that puts it all together. Mm-hmm. So I am kind of curious to see what happens with that. With this next one, we've been having this conversation of whether or not the Warriors are going to make the playoffs.
Yes.
And we've brought this up before, I feel like, on a previous episode. But if they miss the playoffs, most people have Steph in the top 5 of point guards. I feel like you're tripping if you have him in the top 10.
Top 10 or top 15.
Top 10 players.
Yeah, top 10
like,
players.
I can argue it's somewhere from 10 to 15.
And no Bill Walton's not
right.
better than Steph Curry.
Not at all. Not Karl Malone either. Not Dirk. Skip Bayless. I like you, but you're tripping. You're wilding with that one. But if they do not make the playoffs, is it time to re-examine and reconsider this man's legacy?
Absolutely. The reason why I say absolutely, that's no disrespect to the Steph Curry family. It's not like that. But no, that's no disrespect. It's only because of the level that we hold him accountable to.
Right.
We hold him in the same breath of legends. When you're being compared to Isaiah Thomas in the world, they've already ascended him far beyond Steve Nash, right?
Right.
Because he's made the NBA championship, but he's never won Finals MVP. But you're comparing him to players who won Finals MVPs, and I feel like you're doing a disservice for not holding him to the same standard, right? We give guys like Russell Westbrook, right, who I don't believe is actually better than Steph Curry, but we give them all types of heat all types of heat for their play style, even though he's still averaging triple-double at some point. You just got to give him credit, But right. He was able to lead a team in OKC to, I believe, the 7th seed, right? I want to say Victor Oladipo was on that team.
Right.
If you look at, the Kobe Bryant, getting, to a 7th seed as well versus the Phoenix Suns. And the key is just holding him accountable, because defensively he doesn't have that impact. Sure, he can give you some steals, but just because he can steal doesn't mean that you're a great defender. He's not a Chris Paul level defender. But speaking of Chris Paul, when we look at Chris Paul, every single team that he's joined, regular season wins, etc., they've improved. Right now, Chris Paul on that Clipper team, the Clipper curse ran rampant like a disease in Staples Center whenever those players with those particular uniforms that weren't purple or gold, you know what I'm saying, were on the court. But Doc Rivers also has a litany of history of blowing through the league. Right. But Chris Paul has improved and elevated each team. Where Steph Curry, we just need to see him make the playoffs. It's the Western Conference. As a Laker fan, I know how hard it is in the Western Conference every single year. All I ask is that he can actually make it to the AC. The playing game, but if you get in the playing game, right, and you're able to actually get into the playoffs, I can't penalize Steph Curry for that. So Steph Curry, I just want to keep it 100, keep it buck, and keep the same energy that I keep for other NBA legends, right, and apply that to Steph Curry. And I think that's a fair assessment.
Right. So, I agree with you 100%, man. Like, for me, I start thinking about, like, even just comparing to the people that are playing right now. Mm-hmm. Like, when we just talked about it, if you take Ja Morant and Steph off those teams, what roster would you rather have? Mm-hmm. Now, if Jaren Jackson's playing, I probably would rather have Memphis. But without Jaren Jackson, I would rather have the Warriors team that is currently constructed.
Yeah.
And so it's like with that, if you go and look at that, then you go and look at where those respective teams are ranked currently in the standings. It's like they're very close to each other, and the Grizzlies are ahead currently in the standings. But at the same time, Steph is balling out of his mind. With how he's been shooting lately, the amount of threes he's been hitting. He's definitely had over 40 points in almost, I think, 6 out of the last 7.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like for them to have to be where they are, the Grizzlies are in the 8th seed, the Warriors are in the 9th. So if they were to play each other, or somehow the Warriors get in and the Grizzlies don't, then we would be having a different conversation. But right now, the Grizzlies are ahead. So I do think it's an interesting conversation to think about because, like you said, we're not just comparing him to or saying he's a great player. We're comparing him to the greatest to have ever played this game.
And some people
not just shooters.
Not
just shooters. Like it would be a different conversation. Like, all right, is he better than Ray Allen, or is he better than Reggie Miller? Is he better than Larry Bird? Is he better than Chris Mullin? Like those types of conversations. But skip all of that. We're comparing him to Zeke, Magic, Mike, Kobe, Kareem, like some of the greatest to ever do this.
Right.
Especially with him being a unanimous MVP. And so, like, if he misses the playoffs in his prime, I just think we got to have this conversation all over again, because at that point, what impact are you having on your team? Which is, me personally, no hate towards Steph. I think that him and Clay, how well they play together and mesh together, is what made that team great, not just Steph. Because
the Splash Bros.
I was going to say the Splash Bros for a reason.
They feed off each other.
Right. And so Steph's ability to dribble with Clay's ability to shoot off the ball, and how just lightning fast release to catch to shoot point with the most perfect of form. One could argue.
And range from
like
Bora.
Right. And so like with that, like I do think that them together, if they don't make the playoffs, then that conversation gets opened up as far as how much credit does Clay get versus how much credit does Steph get in all of this. I think that they're the perfect combination of the best backcourt that you could ever have.
Oh yeah.
In history.
Yeah, they I feel like it's one of those situations where you can't go wrong with them. Now, I think if you want defense, right? If you want both sides of the ball, I would say Jordan and Pippen, because they were able to three-peat twice, right? And we saw that elevation. I think the mental fortitude of Michael Jordan was able to permeate to some degree on Scottie Pippen. You know, the last game stadium of the week.
Yeah.
And starving for canned goods. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? But I think if you're talking about off-ball movement and the fact that you have to account for these guys, but they can either drop 60 without dribbling the basketball.
Right.
They're the epitome of offensive efficiency in an era where you need to take 3-point shots.
Right.
And we've never seen that before.
True.
You know, so yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Ralph. I think that's a great point.
Well, let us know what you think. If you agree with us, whether or not we need to open up this conversation if the Warriors don't make the playoffs, now that Wiseman has been injured and is out for the season, something we did not bring up. Let us know if you agree with us, disagree with us, why. And we're going to slide over to some baseball. It's the first time we've actually been talked about something else other than basketball and football.
That's our baseball orientation.
But so the MLB decided. Well, first, let me rewind. Georgia decided they passed a vote or passed a law that changed some of the voting rights.
Okay.
I have it right here in front of me. They changed some of the voting laws. Some of the things that people that were affected. You must have a driver's license, an ID card, date of birth, and the last four of your social or another proof form of identification. Um, they did make some changes as far as the mail-in ballots, which was something that was really popular and not popular, but it was something that was used a lot in this past election. I think it's kind of funny the criticism that happened because there were some Republicans that got voted in during this mail-in ballots, and then there's some Republicans that lost, but they're only upset about the ones. The Republicans are only upset about the ones that lost, although it's the same voting rights that helped the Republicans win. But that's a whole other conversation. That's neither here nor there. But to go back to it, a lot of the voting laws have been criticized by a lot of people. Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines are some of the other major corporations that have criticized this law passing or this bill being backed by the Republicans. Do you think that based on what has come out as far as this law and the bill, do you agree with baseball changing the venue? Because they moved from Georgia, the All-Star game, from Georgia to Colorado.
I will say, that's one of those situations where I look at the players in terms of the city and where players are actually going to play. Do they want to be in Colorado or do they rather be in Georgia?
Right.
Now, me personally, I like warm weather. It's not in Georgia. That's not disrespecting Georgia. Me, I wouldn't want to necessarily be, down there. But I think it's one of those situations.
Especially during the summer, it's so humid.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's one of those situations where I'm looking at it more from I'm going to take a different angle, pandemic situation.
Right.
Okay. So how is Georgia doing in terms of the pandemic? I know we didn't necessarily pull that up, but I think whatever city right now is the safest, because I know we have like the vaccination going on. I think I've read something about like 40% have actually got vaccinated right now. I don't know that the numbers are skewed any way. Right? So I think when you're going on at a deeper level with it, at least where I'm taking it as, I'm looking at whatever city is going to be the safest for the upcoming season. So if that would initially was Colorado, then Colorado was fine. I don't think they would necessarily change that situation. If it's Georgia, then it's Georgia. And then I'm looking at where the players actually want to be and what the fans prefer. But also we have to talk about activities and what they can actually do there. So for me personally, I'm looking at more at this point from more of a health and safety angle. And I also think what you had mentioned about the people in Georgia and the voting laws, I thought that was very intriguing. But I'm going to kind of regulate how I feel more than that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because
I don't want to come at anybody. But that's kind of where I'm looking at, because with baseball, I'm kind of looking at it more from a health standpoint. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Well, the one thing about Georgia is if they weren't the first one,
so I know
they were one of like Florida and Georgia are the first two to open up and be open,
right,
100% open. And so like
whether they should or shouldn't,
whether or not they shouldn't,
yeah.
Hey, it's up for you to decide. It's your opinion.
Right.
You can have your opinion.
Yeah, drop a comment, definitely.
Right. And so like I am kind of curious to see, as far as from a safety standpoint, what are they going to do? Because places like Texas was open 100%, but then the governor of Texas, who was supposed to throw out the first pitch, because of MLB deciding not to have the All-Star game in Georgia, he wouldn't throw the first pitch because he was obviously Republican.
So I feel like there's political implications,
right?
Ties,
right.
And so that kind of affects.
Which Colorado, to my knowledge, I would say they're a liberal. Colorado State. I don't know. I know they be passing laws as far as drugs, like medically. Shrooms has already been passed and legalized from a medical standpoint.
Happy 420, everybody.
Oh yeah, happy 420. And so like with that, like I'm kind of curious. I agree with it only because like regardless of what it is that your views are,
Okay.
as long as you're not spreading hate or causing harm to people, I don't really care what your views are. I'm not going to argue with you as far as racism. I'm not going to argue with you as far as hate toward any group of people.
Which these are issues that we take seriously.
Right.
It's one of those situations where we're not going to expend extraneous amount of energy.
Right. Yeah. I'm not going to go back and forth with you because I'm just a grown adult. Like Shannon Sharp said, I'm not going to go back and forth with you in my DMs. If I see you in person, we had this conversation like grown adults. If not, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm straight. And so with that, like, I commend them for having a stance and really full on sliding with that stance. I do think that we're in a day and age with, for those of you that don't know, George Floyd's murderer was convicted on all 3 charges. Now, as far as how much time he'll get, it's to be seen. We'll find out in I want to say, what was it, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
They'll have the judge will give us the sentence in about 2 weeks.
He could be facing up to, I believe they said 40.
Yeah.
And then I think it was for second or third, they said the minimum for that would be 25. Hopefully he gets the 40.
Right. And so we'll see what happens with that. To bring it to a little bit lighter situation, I'm huge on baseball. I was a really good baseball player in high school.
Okay. He was all world.
All worldly. I could have been in the league, bro. On everything I love, bro.
I was the next Satchel Paige 3.0.
Right. They ain't even know, bro. Yeah. But I seen Pete Rose's birthday just passed. And so it got me thinking, is it time to open up this conversation where Pete Rose should be allowed in the Hall of Fame? Look,
man, the conversation was always open. But it just wasn't brought about on the mainstream media. Go to any baseball, area where people like to speak baseball. Ask baseball fans, man. This has been going on since before I was like. This has been going on for a long time. Let's just all say that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, because I think what it is there's certain conversations that get tireless.
Right.
And I feel like they're doing him the same way they do T.O., but they both had different circumstances in terms of what they did, right? So they try to use T.O.'s antics, locker room, etc., right? But P. Rose, they're using gambling and things of that nature. But I've always said this about the Hall of Fame, and Hall of Fames across all sports, all sports, right? The main objective of the Hall of Fame is to recognize the athletic achievements that these top-tier athletes at the highest level, at the highest profession, achieve in their respective sport. Baseball, what they accomplished on the field. Basketball, what they accomplished on the courts. Football, what they accomplished in the NFL field, on the turf, etc. Right? Your statistical production, your resume, your winning. It's things of that nature. Once you start allowing outside things to come in, it's not fair. Who are we to judge somebody else because they sin differently than we? Right. That being said, I'll use the NFL Hall of Fame, for example. There's hypocrisy in how they talk about T.O., and they specifically made those rules to take T.O. out of the Hall of Fame until they found he's clearly a first ballot Hall of Famer. It was one of the greatest atrocities in sports history to hold him out as long as they did, right? But his production and he was a playmaker on the field tells you otherwise that he should have been in it, right? But when you look at these Hall of Fames, there's sports Hall of Fames around the world that have rapists, murderers, drug addicts, all kinds of people. The great Babe Ruth, the old drunkard himself, that everyone loves, etc. Right. And we have a bevy and plethora of steroid users that are in there, or some of them that haven't got caught that are using steroids. And so you're gonna really talk about Pete Rose and gambling? Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, get over yourself. Who am I? My name is Kai. And I'm just letting you know that you need to get over it yourself. And Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame, period. That's all I have to say about it. That's how I feel about it. All this extracurricular tomfoolery and buffoonery that you want to dress up and try to make a case for him against the Hall of Fame. No, it's all about what you achieve on that field. So that's my say so about Pete Rose, man, and I'll let you take it away.
I'm just gonna just shout out some accolades here. So a week ago, he turned 80. This man played 20 seasons in the league, maybe 24 seasons in the league, honestly. So this man played from 22 to 45. He was a 17-time All-Star, MVP, Rookie of the Year, 2-time Gold Glove. Which, for those of you that don't know, you're the best defensive player at your position. 2-time Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, which you're the best hitter at your position. 3-time World Series champ, 3-time batting title, and a World Series MVP. He hit .303 for his whole career.
Wow.
That's 24 seasons where he averaged a 300 batting average. And that's crazy to me. And it's like, regardless of him, even if he had come out
in different decades.
Right. Like, even if he did come out and bet against his team, look at those numbers. Right. Like, for him to be, he's one of the greatest hitters, if not the greatest hitter in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the skill of putting the bat on the ball and getting a hit. The man was it's not too many people that you could put above him, especially for how long he played. He played in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s.
At a high level.
At a high level.
So he wasn't just mailing it.
And so, I don't know, I think it's atrocious that this man is not in the Hall. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of issues as far as the people that vote on the Hall.
Okay.
I do think that baseball is probably the hardest one to get into. I do think that basketball, they're a little too lenient. Because
man, they have people in there that shouldn't be in there.
Yeah, like me personally, I would need to go back and look, but I definitely didn't think T-Mac was going into the Hall.
And just because T-Mac's going into the Hall of Fame, for all you Paul George haters, right? Paul George does automatically the surefire ballot Hall of Fame because T-Mac's in there. If you don't believe me, check their resume. And maybe we'll have a conversation about Paul George's place in the Naismith Hall of Fame after this season, but we'll talk about that later. So,
quick question before we get up out of here.
Yeah.
Julian Edelman, Hall of Fame?
No. And the reason why I say no is because even though the postseason is something that I personally value, right? It's all about the Hall of Fame will be about your whole body of work, right?
Right.
So you need to have some of that regular season success as well. And I feel like if you put him in and you put other players who have had a more expansive resume, right, who played on far lesser teams, right, then I feel like it would be kind of a disservice. But I like Julian Edelman. He suffered some injuries, but it's only in the postseason when he starts to go, crazy. Otherwise, if you put Julian Edelman in there, you might as well put Wes Welker in there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Just because all the strength of how good he was in the slot. And Wes Welker was cold.
Right.
So yeah. What is your opinion before we go on that? Do you think he's all of him?
I do not.
Okay.
And that's why. And I would immediately go to that because
okay.
It's like he only had about like 640 receptions.
Oh hell no.
And so it's
You're gonna
like
have 1,000 for me.
Right. And it's like you don't even have 1,000 receptions. Right. And then it's like when you start literally sitting there, you start going down a list of people. That's like, all right, so if you're gonna throw him in there, then you gotta throw Sterling Sharp in there. And you know how I feel about that as far as
Sterling
Sharp. I'm just saying, bro.
No, Sterling Sharp was cold.
Yeah, and Julian Edelman was never the receiver that Sterling Sharp was.
And I was gonna say this, and I'll kind of end it with this one. Was Julian Edelman something that kept defensive coordinators up all night?
Some people feel like they would argue yes, but I say no.
I mean, like,
Not
did you
kept
say,
them up.
right? Like, did you have to go? Hey, let's double Julian Edelman.
Right.
No, you never had to do that. No, still disrespect to Julian Edelman. I think his greatest strength is actually one of his durability, his clutchness in the playoffs, and his durability just overall before knees and all that. I
Right.
think he was pretty durable because for a short guy.
Yeah.
Right. But he's not Steve Smith. Like Steve Smith kept not just the coordinators up, but the cornerbacks.
Right.
Because he was so physical.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Is Derek Mason in the Hall of Fame? He's not. I don't think Derek Mason's in the Hall of Fame, but I think Derek Mason, and don't kill me for this guy, but if you look at Derek Mason's resume, right? Derek Mason has, and I think Tar mentioned him on our show, Derek Mason probably has a better case outside of, not actually winning the Super Bowl, but I think he was on that Titans team.
Yeah, he got to a Super Bowl.
That lost to the Rams.
Right.
With Kevin Dyson.
Yeah.
So that's all I kind of wanted.
But thank you all for watching. That was a great episode, guys. You can catch us on YouTube. Just type in the He Say She Say channel. You will now be able to watch the podcast that I have as well as the sports show on that channel as well. Shout out to the homegirl Gabby. He Say She Say in the building. Catch us on Instagram as well. Just type in He Say She Say Sports Show.
Yes.
You catch the podcast as well on Instagram as well at the He Say She Say podcast. Catch me on Instagram as well at KYNGRALPH. Give me your joint, and then we out.
All right, and you can catch me at the.house-of-hoops. Once again, that's at the.house-of-hoops on Instagram for NBA analysis, NBA player highlights. It's fun. It's been a great show, guys, and we're out.
Bye.